Okay, thank you. Thank you, Christine, and thank you, Kurt. Thank you for such a heartfelt welcome, and also for getting us all thinking about what has come out of COVID, because I'm going to talk a lot about that. Thank you for hearing me, having me here today. And if you can, turn on your screen so we can see you, because it's just so much easier to connect, especially online. And I already heard that you guys could hear me. I'm going to ask you to put yes or no in the chat several times. So have your chat up and ready to go. I'm going to do my best to keep you engaged in this presentation. And yes, we're going to talk about 4 steps to help you thrive, not just survive in uncertain times. I'm going to start out by asking you guys if you've ever heard of the Noah rule by Warren Buffett. This is something that I was researching when I was developing this talk, and I want to share it with you. The Noah rule: predicting rain doesn't count. Building arks does. Now, I think this is an amazing quote. And what does this mean to us? It means that telling us about market problems isn't as important as how you act on them. You know, Mr. Buffett's a well-known investor and he's made lots of money, so he must know how to prepare for uncertain markets. Inevitably, it's gonna rain, and occasionally the rain becomes a flood. Those predicting a storm may be correct and eventually will be, but those who are actually prepared, those that build an ark, will fare well through the flood. Warren Buffett and other investors perform well over the long run because they focus on buying when the market's low and selling when the opposite is true. It's just like what Kirk was saying earlier tonight. Preparing for uncertain markets, the rain, and then even using these opportunities to buy is how Buffett built his massive ark. Reflecting on this, I think there's an important lesson here for anyone who believes they'll be facing rain in the future. And that is that we build our own ark. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We are experiencing a defining time in history, a time where the economic world as we know it is changing before our eyes. Today, we're facing challenging times that we've never experienced before. We're all being touched by events happening around the globe, and no matter where you live, what your financial status is, or what you do for a living, we're all somehow affected. Many of us are experiencing unbelievable and understandable levels of fear, panic, anger, frustration. The rules of the game seem to have changed overnight, leaving us asking ourselves, what do we do now? My name is Deborah Razo, and I've been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, just like Christina said. I've had 4 businesses and I currently own and operate 2. I started real estate investing just over 9 years ago. So why? Why real estate? What's in it for you? What does real estate equal? Is it riches? And I'm not just talking about money. It might be time richness or energy richness. In my opinion, better than money is freedom. Freedom to live life on my own terms. You see, a little over 9 years ago, I had the opportunity to start over. I know that some of you out there might have also experienced an opportunity like that in your life. For some people, it's the death of a loved one or a divorce. Some of you might be experiencing that kind of opportunity now. I was in a car accident. A tire blew, and the driver of the SUV lost control of the car. We ended up in the dirt by the side of the road, and the rim of the tire dug into the dirt, and the car flipped. It flipped driver's side first, so the passenger, me, got the impact of the accident. I was air vac to a hospital where my head wound was stitched back together, and I was told I had a broken neck. They'd have to operate, and I had a titanium brace put in. It took me a little over a year to heal. And I asked myself during that time, because I had a lot of time to think, if I was really living my life the way I wanted to. Life is short. Have some of you felt that way lately? Now, don't get me wrong, I didn't have a bad life, but was it really what I wanted? I realized I had a business that I wasn't running, but was running me, and I wanted to change my life. I had heard the term passive income, and I decided that's what I wanted. It would give me more time for my family, time to travel the world. I wanted more joy in my life. And you know what? I didn't know how to change, but I knew it was going to take change. My brother, who had been to a bunch of Tony Robbins events, was the one taking care of me after my accident. And he suggested I go to an event when I was ready. Now I work for the Robbins organization, and I'm one of 170 trainers at his events worldwide. I continued my education in real estate, and now I've flipped here in Los Angeles, and I have single family homes in Memphis, Tennessee, and multifamilies in Tucson, Arizona. And let me just tell you, I had a strategy. The accident had kind of wiped me out financially, and I needed to start over again. And so I needed to work for more active income. So flipping was how I was doing that. And then I reinvested for long-term wealth and passive income in my buy and holds. I've also been a private lender and held notes. And now I can add developer to my title. I just finished two fourplexes here in Los Angeles, one over by USC and one in Koreatown. And we just got our certificate of occupancy. We're going to keep them for buy and holds, and we're refinancing. Yep. So it's been a crazy journey. Now, I'm going to go over 4 steps to help you thrive, not just survive in uncertain times. Why now is a great time to cultivate an attitude of abundance, how to protect yourself and your money, how to position yourself in recession resilient real estate strategies. I had to practice that. And why cash is king and how to get some. We are going to build the ark. This is how we're going to start. We're going to build the ark. And if you want to start and you're ready to start building, say yes in our chat. Say yes. Come on. I know you want to start building. Okay. First, why now is a great time to cultivate an attitude of abundance? Okay, let's just talk about the uncertainty out there. My word for this month has been weird. Yeah, weird. And since our worlds have been turned upside down with COVID and then the riots, it just got weirder. I've spoken to a lot of my fellow real estate investors and friends, and it's funny how many of us have been taking some time to reflect. And I think Christina and Kirk hit on that earlier. We think about what are my goals? Do I need to adjust? Am I getting off track? Am I getting closer to my goals? And for many of us, our reality has shifted. Maybe one of the things about we're getting during this weird time is the opportunity to really look at things, to take this time and be okay with figuring out our next move. I'm sure some of us have felt some sort of indecision pre-COVID, and now with COVID, it's maximized. Here's the thing. I believe people on this call want something, that no one here wants to lead a mediocre life. I know that real estate is a financial vehicle that can change lives. And you're here pursuing that kind of change. If we look back at our lives, we can see that risk and change have been there all along. We've started a new job. We've gone back to school. We've scaled back. We've changed course. We need to look at where we are in a positive light. I've had ideas that I've kept close for fear that I didn't have what it would take to turn them into realities. Dreams that I knew that would require the heart of a risk taker. And the truth is, our lives have already been built on a steady diet of risk and failure and growth. It doesn't matter if you're where you exactly want to be, or if you're wondering about how it will be possible to achieve your goals. Everyone here has personal struggles and challenges, and a deep desire for the best life possible. These past couple months have shown me that there's more common ground among us than we might have thought when it comes to harnessing courage and navigating the unknown. The courage to trust what you already feel deep down in your bones. Now, don't get me wrong. We all have a gap between where we are and where we want to be. We all get distracted on different models of real estate. Then we go back and look at what we set out to do and how long we gave ourselves to do it in. It's now. Right now, we have the opportunity to recast ourselves so that we're even stronger than we were before. Every one of us has faced challenges in our lives, and we've triumphed over some of them. All of us have experienced the different seasons of life. We've been through winters, surrounded by darkness, and appreciated the springs even more. We've been through nights, which are also always followed by daytimes, and crises, which always breed new opportunities. Now gives us a chance to make ourselves brand new. There's a new season we've entered. It's different than anything any of us have ever experienced in our lifetime. Take a moment and look at your life. Honestly look at some of the toughest experiences you've faced, and also look at those experiences that you may have conquered. Did these experiences not force you to find an empowering meaning? Did they challenge you to grow and find something within yourself? Didn't they make you psychologically stronger and emotionally fitter? As much as it is human nature to avoid pain, we need to experience pain in order to grow. Without the pain, without having something to push against, we can't sculpt the emotional muscle we need to grow, and more importantly, to give. The events we're experiencing are providing us with the opportunity to recondition our internal strength and rediscover ourselves. Even if we can't control our external environment, we can control our internal environment. What the events we face mean to us. In light of what we learn and experience together, there's a chance we understand risk differently than we did before. When planning for this meeting, I wanted to open up options for your real estate investing portfolio. If you feel like the economy is headed for a recession due to the corona pandemic, as many experts predict, you don't need to take a break from investing. You just need a different strategy. Investing in real estate during a downturn is common. With the right strategies for the right market conditions, your investments can be successful and very profitable. I think that's why Christina and Kirk put on FIBI. They want us to learn and understand different real estate models so we can get educated on what's out there and what's right for each of us. Then we all get to benefit from the collective genius of our experience and its successes. Before we become financially fit, we need to be emotionally fit. And that requires finding the resources within ourselves to take advantage of this time with an attitude of abundance. That's what we need, an attitude of abundance. That's the first thing that's going to start building our arc. Now, number 2, how to protect yourself and your money. Yeah, we all want that kind of protection. What's the best way to protect yourself and your money? I believe asset allocation is the most important investment decision you can make regarding your investing portfolio. What do I mean by asset allocation? It's basically your investment philosophy played out. It's determining how much you want for peace of mind and how much you're willing to risk. I was recently coaching an individual who's having problems moving forward with their real estate investing plans. And after several questions, I realized he hadn't done any asset allocation. The allocation starts with empty buckets. I instructed him to divide his assets into 3 buckets or categories. Let me show you. Bucket 1, security, peace of mind. This bucket consists of low-risk investments. Those investments might not yield a large return, but they help you sleep at night. For me, my personal bucket is it yields between 4 to 7% interest, but everyone is different. Bucket 2, medium risk and growth. This bucket consists of assets that you would determine as medium risk and medium return. For me, this bucket yields between 8 to 12% interest. And bucket 3, high risk and growth. This bucket consists of high risk, high returns, and this investment might be a little more of a long shot, but may also pay off larger returns and enable you to have a bigger reward. For me, this bucket yields 12% and up. Now, he did this and then was able to move forward. Why? After designating a certain amount of money in bucket 1, he felt more comfortable in the other areas of his buckets. And he had assigned those funds to do certain things. They were there for growth. Now, you're the only one that can determine how much of your assets belong in which buckets. My bucket allocation has changed over time. In fact, I don't think my allocation has ever been like a third, a third, a third. There was one point at which I had a lot in my high risk, high reward bucket. I was wanting rapid growth, and frankly, I was a bit younger. Since then, my bucket allocation has changed. And this encompasses all your assets, your real estate, your holding accounts, your stock accounts, anything that you are investing in. It's a great way to assess where you are and what you're willing to risk. Now, there's a few things to note. Risk is not determined by anyone else but you. If you're already investing in a particular area and you see a deal and you think it's a no-brainer, that might be a level of risk you might qualify as bucket 2. For someone that sees that same deal that's never been operating in that market, that they're there for the first time, they might put that in bucket 3. And the same goes for trying different real estate strategies. Your first flip might be put in bucket 3. Your 100th flip, like Kirk, congratulations, Kirk, might be put in bucket 1. Your risk assessment is your own. So you're protecting yourself and your money by allocating funds for each bucket. You're determining the risks that you're willing to take. You're in control. You're in control of yourself. You're in control of your money. And now we're building the ark. All right, are you still with me? Say yes if you're still with me. And shake out something because...
Yes, I'm still with you, Deborah.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have all kinds of Yahoo, yeses, yeah, amens.
Great. Okay, so shake yourself out because this next portion is kind of a long portion. All right.
We're ready.
The next step in building our ark. How to position yourself in recession resilient real estate strategies. You see how I have to do that? That one's like a little bit of a tongue twister for me. So how do we position ourselves in recession resilient real estate strategies? I'm going to break this down into 2 action items. First of all, we're going to talk about some real estate models that are recession resilient. And then we're going to talk about strategies to implement those models, especially if those models are new to you. Okay, let's talk about some real estate models. The first one, Section 8 is sexy, right? So what is Section 8 and why is it sexy? Section 8 is a program that allows landlords to rent apartments and homes at a fair market rates to qualified low-income tenants. It's subsidized by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's basically a voucher program that the tenants enroll in, and yes, a portion of their rent is paid on time, consistently to the landlord directly. Now, who thinks that's sexy? Can I have a yes in the chat box? I own Section 8 housing in Memphis, Tennessee, and during COVID times, there hasn't been any worries about rent being paid on time. It's been terribly sexy. The second model I want to talk about is storage units. These are models, like I said, that are traditionally recession resilient. Something to consider is the fact that storage units usually do relatively well during downturns. As we look at history, it isn't recession proof, but it is very recession resilient. Storage units actually increase during recession. One of the hallmarks of a recession is the movement of consumers to less spacious places. As wages stagnate and the employment picture gets grimmer, unemployment picture gets grimmer and grimmer, homeowners and renters tend to downsize their homes, but they still need a place to store their stuff. Storage unit facilities benefit from this and can have been seen to increase rental rates during a downturn. That makes sense, right? Storage units are an amazing investment vehicle. The third area I want to talk about is mobile homes and mobile home parks. So mobile homes are what some refer to as the last affordable housing. So since many of the large hedge funds moved into apartments, it could be said that they have taken over and made some apartment complexes, especially in dense urban areas, less affordable. And now mobile homes are seen as a very affordable alternative to housing. And have you seen some of the new or the freshly remodeled mobile homes? They're beautiful. The other thing is that a seller can easily buy a mobile home and carry back the note. Seller carryback is abundant in mobile homes. And I'll be speaking a little bit more about seller carryback in the next section, but being able to finance a property can be an amazing way to create cash. And what about mobile home parks? Mobile home parks outperform other real estate sectors during most recent downturns. This is mainly due to the fact that most mobile home parks are owned by their original mom and pops who developed them. Of the 50,000 mobile home parks in the US, only 10,000 are under institutional ownership. The unique and favorable economics of mobile home parks produce amazing returns for investors. I want to go over one other thing before we move on, and that is opportunities. Where will opportunities lie? What asset classes are in trouble and might be going on sale first? Airbnb. Short-term rentals have had a very hard time during COVID, and any Airbnb owner that operates on a thin margin would be in trouble. This creates opportunity for partnerships or JVs or possible purchases. It'll create some opportunity in the market if you're interested in picking up those kind of rentals. What about small commercial strip malls? We've all seen the strip malls that house the nail salons, small commercial strip malls. They're also housing, framing shops and maybe a donut place. These types of commercial real estate have lost rents. And worse yet, the businesses are closing. Because businesses are moving out, these small commercial lots will really suffer. If it's a mom and pop owned property who can't or don't want to continue to own the property, there'll be opportunity. And if it's a place that is zoned in multiple ways, there'll be even more opportunity to have. So it would be something to keep your eye open to. And the last thing I want to talk about is first position non-performing notes. Now, what is that? Those are notes that are held, but the actual person who owes on the note is no longer making their payments. So many note investors are preparing for defaults. People have lost their jobs. Unemployment has skyrocketed. And a lot are predicting that there'll be an opportunity in the next 9 to 12 months in anticipation of many bank-owned properties. Hedge funds and financial institutions are looking for liquidity, and they'll be releasing the notes on these mortgages. And some cases may go to foreclosure, and others may just need loan modifications. It'll take time to get through the foreclosure process with the courts, because all the courts in all the different states are going to be opening up at different times. So you'll need to be smart about where you want to harvest notes from. But once again, a tremendous amount of potential opportunities to be had there. So we've covered some models and opportunities, and what's next is the strategy venturing into those new models. I'm going to keep this really simple, and it's just 3 steps. Make a plan. That's right. If you're going to venture into a new model for yourself, you need to flesh out the scenarios of what might take place. What's the risk involved? What's the reward involved? Get opinions of experts that know that model. Get smart people around you with experience to understand what might happen in the face of current events, right? Have a mentor that talks to you about that. I have a mentor, and he would call this thinking time. And that's what it is. It's thinking about the potential future events and generating multiple outcomes. So make a plan. The second thing to do is build an action plan for that model. So once you're armed with a model, you have to build an action plan for that model. Walk through the procedure of leads, securing the asset, what resources you'll need, how will you fund it, what's involved in closing. You need to create a more well-rounded, better integrated action plan, and make sure you outline the team. What's the point of scenario planning if you're not clear on who does what when? That's really the most important part of the plan. Third, take action. Your alignment's in place. You have no resources to scurry, to dig up. Everything's in line to execute. Now it's time to move forward. So you have to take action. You'll come in contact with things that you didn't expect, and you'll still have to navigate and be armed with the resources, but those will be the people and the processes that you've already been studying. And that's what'll help you succeed. I have one word of caution for you. Don't try to implement multiple new models at once. And I'm going to use another Buffett quote to elaborate on that. He says, "You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant." I find that pretty funny. So it's our desire to make things happen ASAP. And we choose too many models, and then we fail to implement, and that doesn't lead to success. So, don't try to go in many different directions. Choose something and go for it. So, you can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant, no matter how hard you try. Oh, I see in the chat, but you can produce 9 babies. Thank you. Yes, you can. Oh, but think about all that. Think about now having 9 babies at once. All right, so we are building our arc. Now look, we finished number 3, how to position yourself in recession resilient real estate strategies. Our arc is almost done. Our last piece is why cash is king. So why is cash king? Let me repeat that cash is going to be king over the next several months, and here's why. Banks want to lend. It's their nature. The problem is that people are out of work and they might be just starting a new job, or they're behind on their bills and the bank can't lend to them. Currently, the unemployment rate is very high, right? They can only lend to those that have a steady job and have been paying their bills. And so this makes sense that the demand of houses is going to go down. And sure, people will still want houses, but they won't be able to get the loan to get the houses, or they might not have the down payment. So when demand goes down, so does the price of real estate. Supply will go up as demand goes down. People paying on a mortgage will either default or decide to sell and move into an apartment. Either way, many will be selling their homes and moving into rentals, just like 2008. Supply going up and demand going down. More sellers, less qualified buyers. This is where cash comes in. That down payment will make the bank feel reassured you can take on a loan. You could even pay all cash, and you could be an all cash buyer if you have the money in the bank. There are several ways to create cash, and I'm just going to go over a couple of them just so you know you have options. The first is refinancing. Yes, rates are low, low, low. Should you refinance? I say yes, if you can get the loan. And you know what? It's really interesting because during this time, you can go outside and refinance, find a mortgage broker and do the whole thing all over again. But there are some companies, and you should call the company that's holding a current note for you and ask them if they will adjust your current interest rate. Some companies are becoming open to that for a small fee. And how great would that be? You wouldn't have to go through the whole qualifying process all over again. So you need to look at your current rates. Say it's 5% or 6%. Interest rates right now are down to 3+% for non-owner occupied and under 3% for some owner occupieds. So now would be the time to start this process, because now would be the time to get an appraisal while comps still pulled are still being compared to some pre-COVID times. Very good time. Let's just run some numbers so you get an idea. So a $500,000 loan at 5% has a monthly payment of $2,684. Now you just reduce that 1% and you have a monthly payment of $2,387, which is $297 a month difference, and an annual savings of $3,564. Now, over 30 years, that's just above $106,000. That's a down payment for another investment property, and it's totally worth a phone call to see if they can adjust that rate. So definitely look at different ways to take the assets that you have and create cash out of them. I'm going to take a minute to kind of flip the switch on that. If you have assets and, be patient. Sorry, I wanted to add one more thing. You need to be patient. Personally, I just refinanced a property and I started the refinance in February and I just got loan docs for it yesterday. And this is a property that is 60% loan to value. There's plenty of equity in it. Now, I have heard of other people getting the underwriting completed in less time during this COVID season, but my point is relax and be patient. Financial institutions are tentative right now because of what's going on in the market. And why shouldn't they be? They don't know where it's going any more than we do. So be patient when you start the process. Now I'd like to turn the table around. Do you have a property that you're ready to part with? Because if you are, you could be a seller, and maybe it's that scenario about the mobile home park, mobile homes like I mentioned earlier. If you're thinking about selling, you could consider seller financing. And instead of raising your price, you can charge higher interest rates than conventional financing. But no, there are limits to what you can do, and you need to consult a lawyer to make sure that you're within your region's guidelines. But it's another way of turning your asset into cash, an asset you might already own. Another way of utilizing cash is other people's money. Now, I know a lot of people have, heard what other people's money is. It's commonly referred to as private lenders. This can be family and friends. And, I love that Kirk talked about it so easily. He's like, I used to just pick up the phone. And you know what? This could be the people that you're in this event with. Some investors don't have the time or interest in doing the work of real estate, and yet they want their money out there working for them. So this is all about establishing financial friends. That's what I like to call it. Establishing relationships that are mutually beneficial, usually paying an agreed amount of returns. Sometimes even the lender will even take part in some of the profit of the deal. So it's really about making connections and having relationships with someone, and making sure it's in a way that's win-win, and everything's obviously all written down in paper and legal. I want to include a subset to other people's money, and that is other people's equity. So let me talk about that a little bit. What is that? Let's figure a homeowner has been living in a house for 20 years and their property has a lot of equity in it. There are a variety of tools that can be used to construct deals with that owner that will be centered around their specific situation. Seller financing, that's where the seller maintains the mortgage while the buyer gains the right to sell the property. Lease options includes leasing with the right to buy at a price determined in the current market. And wraparounds, a tool used that keeps the existing mortgage in place but transfers ownership to a new buyer. I want to just say, as a real estate professional, it's wise to master your real estate toolkit. These are just 3 tools that you might use in the future. We need to be masters of our real estate toolkit, and learning the different ways to structure a deal will only open up the possibilities for you. So decide what areas you want to master and sink in, go in, learn the tools to make your real estate toolbox robust. Okay, we did it. We built our ark. Predicting rain doesn't count. Building arks does. The Warren Buffett Noah rule. Okay, so now if the rain comes, the ark is already built and ready to board. So when adversity comes in, the ark is ready and you don't need to drown. 4 steps to help you thrive, not just survive in uncertain times. Why now's a great time to cultivate an attitude of abundance. How to protect yourself and your money. Those are our buckets. How to position yourself in recession resilient real estate strategies, and why cash is king and how to get some. We've built the ark. Now, I just want you to think of one thing that you could take action on that I spoke about tonight, and share it in the chat. I know this is a little challenging part, but I'd like you to think of one thing you could do to take action on the information and put it in the chat. Okay, I don't see anything. Oh, there, refinancing, calling my lender. Yes. Very cool. Very cool. Oh, I need to focus on number 1. I'm in a deep funk. Yes. I'm working with OPM and helping others build their wealth. Yes. Selling a place I've got. There's all kinds of strategies. And I find that when you get in motion and you start thinking about the possibilities, the opportunities to reinvent yourself, sometimes that funk will go away and you can start to be more creative and more assertive and more willing to take on what's in front of you. Focusing on your buckets. Yay. Oh, right. OPE. Yes. Other people's equity. That's fabulous. All right. Well, thank you. Do you guys have any questions? I'm going to go ahead and turn off my screen share.
Deborah, thank you so very, very much. Fantastic. Thank you. Well done. Love it. I think the topic is very appropriate, which is, how do you build your arc now? How do you manage to move yourself forward? I think there are several people who have been afraid of recession and what is the effect of COVID going to be on their investment portfolio. I know I've been hearing questions about it. So in the chat box, guys, is there anybody who has a question for Deborah, something you want her to answer, maybe something specific to your portfolio? And while you have a brilliant mind like Deborah available to you, take advantage of it. And let's go ahead and get some questions in the chat box. So there's Deborah, you were able to see people's chats while you were presenting, right? They would pop up, right?
Yes, I figured that out.
Okay. So one of the questions that we do have was, thanks, Deborah. Can you elaborate on your journey of the recent fourplex?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually met another developer, and to be honest, development wasn't on my list of things that I wanted to pursue. But I asked this person about developing, and she said, well, you're a flipper, right? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, developing's so much easier. And no one has ever said that to me before. And I said, how could that be? And she said, well, there's a lot of upfront work. And this is true. Working with the city, working with the plans, with the engineers, with the soil, with the surveys, all of that upfront work is new. And there's a lot of matrix that you have to go through with the city. But once you have the plans approved and you can get your building permits, it's ground up construction. Whereas anybody who's here who's flipped before knows that you actually don't know what you're getting when you're flipping. It could be a surprise. And some of the surprises I've had haven't been that fun. They're not fun surprises.
Wow, I'm so surprised. They're not fun. Go ahead.
I was like, this person put it in a light where I could actually wrap my head around it, right? And I thought, well, that's interesting. And you know how people say that, like, don't think of a pink elephant, or everywhere there's a pink elephant. So what are you thinking of? You're thinking of a pink elephant. Well, once she said something to me about developing, I started meeting developers like everywhere I was going, right? And I ended up meeting somebody who was building fourplexes. And I said, I want to do a deal like this. And I happened to have somebody who had a lot of money available with a 1031 exchange. And so we put a deal together, and we bought single family homes that were zoned for fourplexes, and we knocked them down, and we built 2 duplexes right next to each other. And it's taken us just over 18 months, about 20 months. And we've gotten certificate of occupancies for both of them now. And we're filling them up, we're refinancing them, and we're renting them out. And one of them is in Koreatown, and one of them is over by USC. And it's been a really interesting experience, very different. I mean, I guess the flipping background is great because you actually know framing, you know the steps of what needs to be done first, what needs to be done next. But the whole getting it prepared, and the architect and the city, and going through that whole process was the educational part for me. So very interesting.
Cool. Thank you. All right, we have another question from Nick. So it says, could you explain a bit more in note harvesting? That's a totally new term for him.
Right. So I don't actually know that I use that term harvesting, but there are tapes, note tapes out there. So large funds or large banking institutions, financial institutions will sell tapes to smaller investors, but smaller investors not meaning individual investors like me. They'll sell them to other established investors that are in that market. And then those are then passed down to smaller investors, individual investors. So, and those tapes can range. They're usually not put in a certain geographic area. They're not put in any kind of financial area. They can range from very, large estates to very small estates. They can range from California to, someplace podunk, I don't know. Because it's not about that for the financial institution that's getting rid of them. It's about having those assets on their books and then wanting to get rid of those assets on their books. So that's what that's about. You can find note investors. There's several really expert note investors. There's a few on this call. Yeah, that's how you get them.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to, there's a question about, can you speak to market values? There's sort of two pieces to this in my mind. There's market values right now, but there's also, she added in, Cindy, this was Cindy. Thank you, Sydney, for the question. Can you speak to market values? Also, she added in, she just read an article where Zillow is getting sued for inaccurate estimates. So that, to me, those are two different questions. Market values right now, which I'd love to hear your opinion, and Zillow being sued for inaccurate estimates.
Oh. When I think of market values, especially how COVID has hit it, no two markets are the same right now. I'm the founder of the Women's Real Estate Network, and we have 6 different chapters. One is in Seattle, which was the first city to go on shutdown pretty much. And one is in Atlanta, the first city to come off shutdown. Now, nobody is going to tell me that the markets are going to be acting similar in those 2 geographic locations. When it comes to the markets, and they say real estate is local, right? That's, you have to look at your specific market and what's going on in that specific market to even determine anything at any numbers and any evaluation. I think that Zillow is an interesting tool. It's not one that I use for comping properties. I've never felt that Zillow's their matrix, or what is it called, that they
estimate.
That their estimates, have been accurate, right? It's been something that that I think that you take from several different sources, and hopefully somebody in that area that would, like a real estate agent that can comp that area for you if you're really wanting to get specific about that market.
I would be the second time. I believe the second time Zillow's been sued over that.
Yeah.
But they got sued, I think, 2 or 3 years ago.
So there was a suggestion, which was from Alex, never use their estimates, just use their solds, which I would have to echo as well. I use Zillow a lot, and I use their solds. I like their solds in the way they present them, because they tell you the price per square foot without you having to search very deep, because I'm really trying to create a nice matrix of what actually sold in that area and what the price per square foot is that it's sold at. So I'm using it for its data and not for its estimate.
They're scrubbing the MLS just like Trulia and all the other ones anyway. So that information is pretty accurate.
Should just be accurate.
All right.
So, okay, so we have a question from Julie. Mm-hmm. Do you know in California who helps you to do seller financing transactions, such as escrow, title company, or lawyers? So who do you use and who do you recommend?
So personally, I use a local escrow company in Burbank. Oh my God, I just forgot their name. Okay, it'll come to me. I'll put it in the chat. But they're a local escrow company that does creative transactions, right? And they have a title company that works with them. And this particular escrow company also has the other designation of also transactions with businesses. So they also do business sales, which all escrow companies don't do that. So it's a mom and pop shop, and it's been around forever. It has a great reputation, and it is, yeah. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to look at my Rolodex.
Let me, while you're thinking about it, Deborah, or while you're doing research, let me ask Kirk that question, because Kirk, you also do transactions in California with other people's money. So who do you use as far as escrow, title company, or attorneys having to do with seller financing or other people's money in California?
Sure, good question. So when I was getting started, I used a note broker, was the first person who wrote up the first notes that I notes and deeds of trust. So I paid them a fee. They put together the paperwork. I've also used my escrow companies helped me put together notes before. Title companies, oftentimes, I've done them in other states where I didn't have the proper paperwork because I just was unfamiliar. So I've had the title companies oftentimes put them together. So it comes down to, you know, if you're not sure, oftentimes you could just ask and they can either direct you. Like in Indianapolis, they directed me to an attorney who had to put together the mortgage documents for that. But I basically had all those different ones. So a note broker can do it. They've got a license that should cover that. Title companies have been able to help.
Do you have a name? Can you suggest a company or two that either escrow, title, or attorneys that you've used that you would recommend?
In Southern California?
Yep.
I use an escrow company in Downey called Escrow Results. I believe their website's escrowresults.com. I forget her name. The Note Queen. What's the Note Queen?
Dawn
Rickabaugh. She has helped me write notes before. She moved though from Southern California. I believe she's in Nevada now. But I'm pretty sure her website is thenotequeen.com. So she's helped me. And then those are the two main ones that I've used.
And Deborah put into the chat box the name of hers, which is All Brokers Escrow, and even has the phone number. So go to your chat box for All Brokers Escrow and the phone number. So, and that question, by the way, was from Julie. Thank you, Julie. And so I use a company called Old Town Escrow. They're in Pasadena. So I use Laurel at Old Town Escrow. She's familiar with complex escrows, but is still very much follows the rules when it comes to other people's money, but she has done notes for me. You can also use something called DocStar, DOCSTAR, DocStar. They will simply register and they will simply create the note for you and also to get it to the court to get it recorded. But they are not a title company. They are not an escrow company. Let's be really clear. They're just transactional. They're just managing, creating a note and recording your document. So that's good for small private sales where you're comfortable with that type, but you do potentially run into a cloud on title, just so you know, if you don't use an escrow company. So I have to give you that disclaimer before I suggest you use something like DocStar. Okay. Aaron Gill, Laurel Sanchez. Aaron, unmute yourself. Is that your recommendation for a escrow or title company?
Old Town Escrow, Laurel Sanchez.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aaron, you know what's so funny? I've talked to Laurel so many times and I don't know her last name by heart at all.
Okay.
Thank you very much for filling that in. Yes, Laurel Sanchez at Old Town Escrow. So there you go. Okay, so Julie, that should give you some people to work with. And other people as well. Let's see. So we had another question here that was from Shiri. Deborah, are you going to do more development projects?
I'm actually holding off on development right now because the market's changing a bit. And development is like long forecasting, right? I've got to forecast 18 to 24 months in advance. Mm-hmm. So I think what I'm going to do is transfer those skills into building some ADUs. So I'm looking at properties that have a little bit bigger lot, and I could, add value that way. So, but I'm not bursting. I still have to finish my refinancing and lease these properties up. So I've got my hands full right now, but that's my next plan.
Okay, so Elin said ADU, additional dwelling unit. Elin, it's your tiny house behind a big house.
Right, and by the way, I just finished one of those. I'm just going for a certificate of occupancy on an ADU that we have built in Tahunga, which is once again the city of LA. And just so you know, as a developer, knowing the city that you're going to be developing in is super important. You know, there are certain cities like Pasadena, for instance, and Burbank, who are not very open to changing a lot of structures on their properties. So I really stick to the city of LA, plus my team, the architect, the engineers, the everybody who works on the project is specific to that city. They have built-in relationships. My expediter, you know, I need an expediter that like knows the people down in the LA city office, right? Because they're the ones that are going to get that project through. And so I usually don't venture out of LA city.
Yes, and your expediter is hugely important. You can have your contractor, or you can have your electrician or your architect, not electrician, your engineer. You can have your contractor, your engineer, your architect be the people that runs that through, but an expediter is actually going to get the blankety blank done. And so I'm a great support of expediters too, if you're going to be doing developing or a complex project as well. So I should have used an expediter on one of my contracts, right, Kirk? One of my flips?
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
All right,
Unless you want things to take a lot longer and cost more.
Gosh, don't talk to me about that. But yes, that's an accurate representation. So let's see. So Elin says, wow, I might look into helping people get tiny homes as ADUs. Absolutely. That is correct. Absolutely. All right. So I don't,
Hey, Christina, real quick.
yeah, Alex.
One of my commercial developers who does multifamily apartment buildings in specifically in the city of LA, he is saying right now that the city is proactively doing some zone changes right now to do density increases, and he's not actually having to go there and petition to get a zoning change on stuff, but they're starting to do that kind of in the back. And so you may want to kind of, especially if anybody's looking at any type of redevelopment for on lots, you may want to check to see if there's changes happening in front of your eyes.
There might be. I haven't checked the most recent changes, so that's good to know.
And I've got to tell you something, working with the city during the COVID times there's been pluses and minuses. I mean, the city closed, so you can't go down to, the planning department anymore, which kind of a plus. I mean, I gotta tell you, going down and standing in those lines ain't no fun. And they had to make a way for you to be able to get through. And so it's all on email. And actually they've been very responsive. The other thing is that, the inspectors have been coming out on a more regular basis. The only time that we had problems getting inspectors was the week of the riots. They pulled back inspectors during that week. But we've had inspectors coming out, really regularly, and, things have been actually moving along at a decent pace, for the city. So it's been pretty interesting.